Sometimes the saddest love stories aren't about falling out of love. They're about two people who loved each other deeply, but never said it out loud. This is the story of Maya and Daniel. They met in college, in a small coffee shop near campus. She was studying architecture. He was working on his music composition degree. Their eyes met across the room one rainy afternoon. He was sitting by the window, headphones on, scribbling notes on sheet music. She was sketching building designs in her notebook, a half-empty latte beside her. They became friends almost instantly. Study sessions turned into late-night conversations. Coffee dates became weekly rituals. Their friends would joke about how perfect they were together, but neither of them ever said the words that mattered most. The beginning of silence. It started with small moments of hesitation. Daniel would look at Maya while she laughed at his jokes, and he'd feel his heart race. He'd open his mouth to tell her how he felt, but then stop himself. What if I ruin everything? He'd think. What if she doesn't feel the same way? Maya felt it too. Every time Daniel walked her home after their coffee meetups, she'd stand at her doorstep, hoping he'd say something, hoping he'd tell her what she saw in his eyes. But instead, she'd just smile and say, "Thanks for today. See you tomorrow." And he'd reply, "Yeah, tomorrow." Months passed. Their connection grew stronger, but their silence grew louder. Daniel started writing songs about her, melodies filled with longing and words he couldn't say in person. He'd play them alone in his apartment, his fingers trembling on the piano keys. Maya would design imaginary homes in her sketchbook, homes with 2 coffee mugs on the counter, homes with a piano in the living room, homes for a life she was too afraid to ask for. Their friends noticed. Sarah, Maya's roommate, confronted her one evening. "Just tell him how you feel," Sarah said, watching Maya stare at her phone, waiting for Daniel's text. Maya shook her head. "What if it changes everything? What if I lose him completely?" Daniel's best friend, Marcus, said almost the same thing to him. "Bro, you're clearly in love with her. Everyone can see it. Just tell her." Daniel looked down at his hands. "I can't risk losing her friendship. It's the best thing in my life." There were so many chances, so many perfect moments that slipped away. On Maya's birthday, Daniel gave her a small gift, a silver bracelet with a musical note charm. She wore it every single day after that. As she hugged him thank you, he held on just a second longer than usual. She felt it. The way his arms tightened, the way his breath caught. "Maya, he started. She pulled back slightly, looking up at him, hopeful. "Yes?" He smiled, but the words died in his throat. "I hope you like it." Her smile faded just a little. "I love it. Thank you." Another moment passed. On a cold winter night, they walked through the park after studying. Snow was falling gently around them. The world felt quiet and still. Maya slipped on a patch of ice. Daniel caught her, his hands on her waist, steadying her. They stood there, faces inches apart, breath visible in the cold air. "Careful," he whispered. "Thanks," she whispered back. Neither of them moved. The moment stretched between them, full of everything unsaid. Then Maya laughed nervously and stepped back. "I'm so clumsy." Daniel nodded, shoving his hands in his pockets. "Yeah, we should head back. It's getting late." Graduation approaches. As senior year came to an end, things began to shift. Daniel got accepted into a graduate program across the country. Maya received a job offer in a different city. They both knew their time together was running out, but still, neither of them spoke. The night before graduation, they sat together on the campus lawn, the same spot where they used to study together years before. "I'm going to miss this," Maya said softly, pulling her knees to her chest. "Me too," Daniel replied, staring at the stars above. "Daniel," Maya began, her voice shaking slightly. He turned to look at her profile in the moonlight. "Yeah?" She wanted to say it, everything. How every song reminded her of him. How she'd been in love with him since that rainy afternoon in the coffee shop. How the thought of him leaving made her chest ache. But fear gripped her heart. "Promise we'll stay in touch?" He felt his own words catch in his throat. He wanted to tell her to come with him, to say that he didn't want to spend a single day without her, that she was the reason behind every melody he wrote. Instead, he nodded. Of course, always. After graduation, they texted every day at first. Good morning messages, photos of their new cities, late-night voice notes about the struggles and victories. But slowly, life got in the way. Days between messages turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Daniel dated someone briefly. It didn't work out. She wasn't Maya. Maya tried to move on too. She went on dates, met new people, but no one made her feel the way Daniel did. 2 years passed. The messages became rare. Birthday wishes, holiday greetings, polite updates. The connection faded into memory. The love remained, buried beneath layers of silence and fear. 5 years after graduation, Maya received a wedding invitation in the mail. Her heart stopped when she saw the name. Daniel was getting married. She sat on her apartment floor, holding the thick, cream-colored envelope, tears streaming down her face. She was happy for him, she truly was. But her heart shattered anyway. That night, she couldn't sleep. She pulled out her old college notebooks and found sketches she'd drawn years ago. Homes with pianos. Homes with 2 coffee mugs. She realized she'd been designing a life for them that would never exist. Meanwhile, across the country, Daniel sat at his piano. His fiancée was asleep upstairs. The wedding was in 3 months. Everything was planned. Everything was perfect. But he wasn't happy. He looked down at his hands on the keys and started playing. An old melody. One he'd written in college. One he'd written about Maya. His fiancée was kind. She was wonderful. But she wasn't the one he'd been writing songs about for years. That night, Daniel made a decision. He couldn't marry someone while his heart belonged to someone else. It wasn't fair to anyone. He called off the wedding. His fiancée cried, but she understood. She'd always known there was a part of him that wasn't fully present. "You need to find her," she said gently, "whoever she is. You need to tell her the truth." Daniel bought a plane ticket that same week. He didn't plan. He didn't overthink. He just knew he couldn't live with the silence anymore. He showed up at Maya's apartment on a Saturday morning. Rain was falling, just like that day they first met. When Maya opened the door and saw him standing there, soaking wet, her world stopped. "Daniel? What are you—" "I can't do this anymore," he interrupted, his voice breaking. "I can't keep pretending that I don't love you. I've loved you since college, since that coffee shop, since every single moment we spent together." Maya's hands trembled. Tears filled her eyes. "I know I'm too late," Daniel continued. "I know I don't deserve this, but I needed you to know. Even if you don't feel the same, even if you've moved on, I needed to finally say it out loud." Maya couldn't speak. She just stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. "You're not too late," she whispered against his chest. "You're not too late." Maya and Daniel stood in that doorway, holding each other, finally letting years of silence break. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't know how they'd make it work with the distance. But they knew one thing for certain. They wouldn't waste another moment being afraid to speak their truth. Love isn't just about feeling deeply. It's about having the courage to be vulnerable, to risk rejection, to say the words out loud, even when your voice shakes. How many of us are living in silence right now, waiting for the perfect moment that may never come? The people we love deserve to hear it, not someday, not when everything is perfect, but now, today. Because the saddest love stories aren't about people who never loved each other. They're about people who loved each other deeply, but never found the courage to say it. Don't let fear steal your chance at happiness. Speak your truth. Tell them how you feel, before time runs out, before the moment passes, before silence becomes the story.